Hey friends, I hope you're doing well. I just heard about Randy Meisner passing away, and I wanted to say a few words. I'm out here on the front porch. It's raining. It's very dreary. You might hear some thunder in the background, but I figured I'd come out here and talk to you guys. First thing I think of is probably what everybody thinks of, is "Take It to the Limit." It's a great song. It's a great song, but for those of you who are musicians out there, played in bands and stuff, have you ever tried to play that with a band? You'll find out a lot about your drummer when you're playing "Take It to the Limit." I've always thought of that particular song when you're like the garage band, maybe you play in your local clubs or whatever. There are certain songs that you try to play that separate, these different levels of players. That's a really hard thing to play, that slow waltz, that 3/4 time thing. To play that slow, that sparse, that loose is really hard. When I see the Eagles in the 1977 Washington, D.C., that video, it's amazing. It really is amazing. Those guys are great players. Henley, everything he plays is just right on. I think Randy Meisner just sounds great. He wrote that, and it makes sense that this song that he wrote, that was his biggest contribution to the Eagles, would have this, 3/4 time R&B soul waltz feel to it, since that's what the kind of music that he played earlier on and that he loved. Growing up in Nebraska, being a big soul music fan or R&B music fan, that's pretty damn cool. But if you play that, there's people that are watching this and you're thinking, that's easy. Either you're delusional or you're really, really good. If Kenny Vaughn, Tom Bukovac, Tom Utz, Dave Rowe, there's some of these folks, Mark Fain, that I've had on the channel, great, great players. And I'm leaving some people out, and I'm sorry. Chris Scruggs, great, great players. They can do that easily and do it really, really well. A lot of us really struggle to play that sort of a beat, that slow. I think of different earlier examples of that groove, and "Take It to the Limit." "If You Don't Love Me By Now," is it Melvin and the Blue Notes? Is that who did that? That was a few years earlier, and it's got like the same sort of thing going on. And it's hard to come up with examples of that. It's different than "I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry." That's just a straight waltz the way country people would do it, or folk singers would do it. But the way these soul artists did it was a whole different thing, and there's a really cool feel to it. And it's neat to see that brought into the Eagles, and that's Randy Meisner bringing that in and bringing this whole other feel. I think they had a couple other waltzes in the Eagles, but nothing like this. And it was their first million-selling hit. It's a huge contribution, and he brings that into this country rock sphere that they're, at the forefront of, or at least the most popular band doing that sort of thing, bringing it to the masses. Maybe you guys can help me. What are some examples of songs like that earlier than the Eagles that Randy Meisner would have been channeling and bringing into the Eagles? Ray Charles did stuff like that on piano, and I'm trying to think of particular songs that might be, but like Otis Redding, "That's How Strong My Love Is." It doesn't have the exact same feel. Maybe "I've Been Loving You Too Long." Otis Redding. Steve Cropper plays the guitar different, and it kind of like it guides you along a little bit easier. That plays the arpeggiated chords, and I don't know. That's a beautiful, beautiful way of doing it. It's a whole other thing. But this thing that Randy Meisner brought into the Eagles with that one song, it's weird to make such a big deal about one song, but the contribution cannot be overstated. And he did it with a lot of different artists. He was part of this scene, this really important moment in music with, Linda Ronstadt He played on Sweet Baby James, a couple songs on that album. You know, playing with Ricky Nelson in the Stone Canyon Band. I personally think a really interesting moment of this whole country rock thing is Randy Meisner playing on a Waylon Jennings record, Singer of Sad Songs. Waylon was, you know, not liking Nashville and thought, I'm going to record an album out in California. He goes out. Randy Meisner just happens to be the bass player, and they get along great. Waylon is not getting along with the producer, Lee Hazelwood, which, go figure, Waylon not getting along with the producer. But it's a really interesting record with some cool stuff on it. You can hear, I don't think Meisner is credited as a backup singer, but it sure sounds like him on up top on Waylon's version of Honky Tonk Women. And it sounds like Randy Meisner singing up there. So I'm going to say it is. But also they did a cover of Utah Phillips's Rock, Salt, and Nails. And if that isn't a weird convergence of people, Randy Meisner, you got an Eagle, you got Waylon Jennings, and you got Utah Phillips. You know, they're recording a Utah Phillips song. That's pretty damn cool. It's a pretty good version of it too. A song, if you don't know who Utah Phillips is, look him up. He's one of the great storytellers of his generation, maybe the best, and just a great folk singer. And it's neat that there's these moments when people of the stature of Waylon, you know, or an Eagle were participating in recording his songs. That's a really cool thing. But I think Meisner played on 10 of the songs on that album, and it's worth listening to. There's a cool website called RandyMeisnerRetrospective.com that has a lot of neat information about Randy Meisner, and it's worth looking at. But they kind of go in a little bit deep on this Waylon album, and it's interesting. It's definitely worth looking up. I recommend you. But I'm going to read just a little bit from that. After the album was recorded, it says, Waylon and Randy remained friends following the recording of Singer of Sad Songs. Stephen Love, who had a short-lived band with Randy in 1970 called Gold Rush, and who eventually replaced him in the Stone Canyon Band, tells the story of Randy introducing him to Waylon at the Troubadour upon his arrival in Los Angeles. Love mistakenly says this introduction took place in 1969. It would have actually occurred in December 1970 after Randy returned to LA from Nebraska with Stephen in tow. This would have been Waylon's first ever appearance at the Troubadour. And this is the quote. It says, on my first evening in Hollywood, Randy Meisner took me to the Troubadour to meet Waylon and his band. We went upstairs after the show so I could meet my first star. I still remember him shaking my hand and looking at my penny loafers. He asked me my intentions in Hollywood, and I said I wanted to be a star. And he laughed and he said, well, and I quote, well, you better go out tomorrow and get you some cowboy boots if you want that to happen. Then he gave me something I had never seen before, some white powdery substance that made me feel like Hercules. He said, welcome to Los Angeles. And then he goes on to say that he would always see him at Willie's Barbecue after that, and Waylon would always check to make sure that he was wearing cowboy boots. But that was Stephen A. Love, and that was from a Facebook comment in 2019. And Waylon and Willie Nelson later went on to do a cover of Take It to the Limit to bring the whole thing full circle. But, man, I know some of you, whenever I talk about the Eagles on here, there are those of you who don't really dig the Eagles anymore, if you ever did, and it's mainly because of your thoughts about Glenn Frey and Don Henley or whatever. Well, let's put that aside for one day and pay respects to Randy Meisner. He was right there in the center of some really, really cool stuff going down in Southern California, some stuff that influenced even people today, and it changed parts of music forever. And I don't know, just wanted to pay my respects to him. I hope you're doing well. Tell me your favorite, project that Randy Meisner was involved in, whether it be Poco, what Ricky Nelson stuff, the Linda Ronstadt stuff, Waylon, I don't know, whatever. Tell me about it down below, and I'll see you somewhere down the road. Much love to you.